Okay, let's bow our heads quickly. Dear Father, I thank you for everybody that's here today. I thank you for Global Youth Day. I thank you for our young people. I thank you for our church. Father, let people hear you and not me. This is my prayer in your son's name. Amen. Okay, so Tana did the scripture reading, and she was saying this scripture reading is rubbish. I thought that's a little bit harsh. She said, well, it doesn't go anywhere. It just ends in the middle. And so the scripture reading is all about the story of the prodigal son. Everybody knows that story, I would hope, yes? But just in case we have a first timer here or somebody who's forgotten, the prodigal son is one of the most popular stories in the Bible. And it's pretty simple. There's a father who has two sons. Sorry, Jesus told this as a parable. There's his father, he has two sons. And the younger one says one day, I don't know if it was out of the blue, but one day, Dad, if you wouldn't mind, can you give me everything that is coming to me? You know, that money you save for college to help me with the deposit for my flat, that money that, would help me pay for my wedding if I get married one day. You know, you've been saving up all these years. You wouldn't mind, can I have it now, please? A bit of a strange request. And even more strange, Dad says, all right, here you go. In a couple of days, the son was gone. The son was gone. Now, the story doesn't end there, but I would like to explore that part of things. You know, why? The Bible doesn't say why. If Jesus doesn't say much at all, he just tells a story just like that, you know, with no context. And so we all jump to our own little conclusions. We all kind of add our little bits to make it make sense to us. And there's, you know, a kind of popular way we look at the story of the prodigal son and why that son left. But that's not the only possibility. You know, the way we think about it doesn't have to be the way it actually is. There's more than one possibility of how that may have gone. Now, for me, you know, when things go wrong between people, it involves more than one person, but we like to, you know, I don't know if we like to, but certainly where I've been taught that story is if the son was just a bad kid and he wanted to go. Yeah, that's a possibility. But how do we know he wasn't escaping his father who wasn't very nice? We don't know. But let's explore the possibilities of both. So, as we do that, we're going to talk about young people. I don't know the young person, the younger son, but I know young people. I know young people here. We have some young people here. You know, I've seen them grow up, like Linda showed the pictures from babies they've grown up here. And I think I know them. And I know myself when I was young. And I know people a bit older than me when I was very young. And so I've got a quote for you, which I'm going to read. Now, you've probably heard this before. It's been presented in church a few times before. But just listen out and see if this represents something that you know and understand. So it says, children now love luxury. They have bad manners, contempt for authority. They show disrespect for their elders and love chatter in place of exercise. Children now are tyrants, not servants of their households. They no longer rise when elders enter the room. They contradict their parents and chatter before company and tyrannize their teachers. Now, church, youth, you got to stick with us for a little bit. You know, don't walk out just yet. But church, older folks, you know, adults, is this youth? Does this statement represent our young people in some way? Ooh. Who says yes? In some way, does it represent our young people? There are about 5 hands. Who says no? 1. So the rest of you are abstaining from the vote. It's just like business meeting out here. Listen, I'm going to be the brave one and say it. Some of our young people, some of the time, aren't all they should be. Some of our young people, some of the time, aren't all they should be, Tana. Yeah, I mean, let's just be honest. Is that fair enough? Young people, is that fair enough? Well, one person said, yeah, 2. Okay, well, that's progress. So I'm going to be honest. We've got to be honest, young people. I'm not a young person anymore, but I'm not talking about theoretical about young people. I'm talking about our young people here in Chiswick Church. And so the truth is, they can be rude. They can be dismissive. They think they know everything sometimes. And when things go wrong, they want to blame somebody else. That's our young people in Chiswick Church today sometimes. It's always somebody else's fault. They have so much more than any other generation has ever had since the beginning of time, and all they do is moan about what they don't have. I had a note to pass to somebody. You got some phones, but still you haven't got enough. And speaking of phones, don't get me started on phones. I'll be honest, young people, it's just rude. It's just rude. I was saying to Ashley, there's no word of a lie. I said to Ashley, one day we're going to have to get a young person, Kai, or someone, to come and sing a song. And when they're in the vestry or doing something, we tell the whole church, just ignore them. When they come out, just go on your phones and chat to each other and see how Kai or Raina might feel. Because when they want to come and sing, they want, like Kai did, they want you to listen and get a wonderful amen. But when you're speaking, I'm snapping, or is that what you call it, or tweeting, or on Facebook. I know Facebook, I've got Facebook. It's just rude. It is just rude. We say that, young people say, we don't have a voice. No one listens to us. That's not true. If the church is turned over to you every week at 4:30, so the average age of AUI is, what, 60? The church is yours. Do whatever you like. You're elsewhere. And when you're asked to do something in church, unless it's singing, you've got some excuse. Yep? And my young people, from the younger ones, to the ones who are a little bit older, we're doing great things. We got jobs, families, kids. We're A-star students. Where's Maxwell? How many was it, Maxwell? Don't be ashamed. How many? 9 A-stars. Amen. So, we got skilled young people. When you ask them to do prayer, I can't pray. I can't do the scripture reading. Or you ask them to do something, and it's too early in the morning for Sabbath school, or AY is too late in the afternoon. Everything, family worship, I'm tired. We always got, some reason why we can't do something. That's our young people. Is that correct? Well, church, like you're scared to say it. I know you feel it, so you can say it. Is that correct? Is that our young people? We got to be honest, church. If we're going to, move on from where we are, we have to see where we are. And sometimes, I don't know these two young men in front here, but I'm sure it's you too. This is young people. Is it? No, they're just these boys. These two boys are perfect. Everybody's got some issues. And so we got to take responsibility, young people. You have to take responsibility for yourselves, for your personal development, and for your development as a Christian. You have to take responsibility. You can't stand before God one day and said, well, Mark won't let me sing the solo, or the church didn't give me. That's not going to cut it. And in every area of your life, you're just chomping at the bit for more responsibility, which is why I called down my little boy Antonio, and I was speaking to Lindsay the other day, and I was saying, we have this thing where youth, talk about the ages of youth. For me, youth's got to start from about 11. Once they go to secondary school, they think they're grown. That's just the truth. So perhaps we should, 35, bring it down a little to 25 and hit the 11-year-olds. But, they're growing up in that same way. You have to take responsibility. So that's one possibility. Maybe the younger son, was just rude. Maybe he just was the kind of person that we've described here. Maybe. But church, and now this is the young people's time to say some amens. Maybe the dad wasn't a great dad. Ever thought about that? Now we just assume, because later on he reacts quite well, we assume that he was a great dad. Maybe he wasn't. Maybe he wasn't. And the truth is, as adults and parents, we don't always get it right, do we? Are you quiet now? Isn't it? Do we always get it right? Of course we don't. We're people too. We don't always get it right. And sometimes we have a relationship with our children at home that, when someone says, oh, what's your university choice? I want to go to University of the Moon, just to get away from our parents. Just as far as we can get from our parents, we'll go there sometimes. That's just the truth. I'm not suggesting, I mean, I should have went to Coventry. It's not quite the moon, so I don't know how she felt about that. But the truth is sometimes they just want to leave because we're not particularly great parents. And it's the same in church. It's the same in church. Sometimes young people leave because we're not particularly great. Sometimes we don't show them that we love them. Sometimes we make mistakes. Situations come up where, sometimes we're more concerned with what our young people are wearing, how they present themselves, than who they are and their character. Sometimes, even though we don't have a relationship with our young people, sometimes still we feel it's our right to just pass our opinion. I remember myself and Ashley, we were in Barbados watching some cricket. And anybody Bayesian here? Any Bayesian family? It was me one. That's it. All right. Well, Barbados is a beautiful place, but it's full of Bayesians. And they're great people, but they got some character. Myself and Ashley will be minding their own business, and for whatever reason, people felt they could just interject in our conversation. And so they have no problem, you're talking and they'll say, no, that's not the case. I don't agree with that, it's ridiculous. You're just riding the bus, it's none of your business. Or someone will say, you wearing that jumper with that shirt? What were you thinking of? You're like, well, who's he? But the truth is, sometimes we're like that here in church. We don't know somebody, we never invested anything, anybody, no relationship, but we want to tell them about themselves, what they should and shouldn't be doing, and how little like us they are. Now, I'm not sure, that's our place. I'm not sure that's our place. And let's be honest, church, for us older people in church, we had our day, didn't we? We had our day. I remember, high tops, and it was shoulder pads in jackets in my day, and big old baggy trousers. And there was a time when there was your braces, but you didn't have them on your shoulders, you had them hanging down. I remember Brother Jones said, you look like you just come from the toilet, you shouldn't do that. But I thought I was cool, and if anybody did speak to me about it, I didn't like it too much. So it makes me, will give me the right to talk about, skinny jeans or whatever else young people are doing. Particularly if I don't know them. Particularly if the only thing I say to them is criticism. So it's possible that the father was wrong. It's possible that he was the problem and the son just had to get out of there to keep his sanity. And the truth is, we don't know. The Bible doesn't say and we don't know. And in some ways, it doesn't matter. Maybe that's why Jesus left it out. It doesn't matter. The point was, he was gone. The son had left home. The son was gone. Now, who remembers Elder Mike Philpotts? Anybody remember? A few, some of the old. Any young people remember Mike Philpotts? No. Okay. Well, you're not that young, actually, but okay. And so some do, some don't. He was an elder here. A big, strong, strapping guy. And he emigrated to Canada. I remember him on this same platform. It was a little bit different. Him prancing around here. And his last sermon, I'll never forget it, was stay in the boat. Stay in the boat was the line he kept saying. And what he was saying was that, this Chiswick church was ordained by God. This Chiswick church here that we are in was ordained by God. And each of you belong here because we're a family. This is the place where God called us to be, to support each other. This is where he said he'll meet us once a week. I mean, we contact him during the week and so on and so forth, but he'll be here to meet us every week in this Chiswick church. And Mike was, I'll never forget it, stay in the boat. If you don't like the head elder, stay in the boat. If they won't let you sing on the platform, stay in the boat. If you don't like the pastor, stay in the boat. And, it stuck with me. And I think that sometimes if you look at that in a more literal way. Who's seen the movie Titanic? Anybody? Titanic, yes? You haven't seen it? Oh, okay. Well, in that movie, and a lot of other movies you see, there's these scenes where people are stranded on these little boats, loads of people, yeah? And there's been some kind of disaster, they're trying to save themselves, and they're in these boats, kind of just floating along in these boats. Now, they're clinging on for dear life. They're normally overcrowded, and they're cold, someone's come to rescue them. They're clinging on to dear life. But if we were in a boat, if this church, if God's church was a boat, traveling on its way, we'd cling to each other, wouldn't we? We'd cling to each other. But it seems that Sometimes we seem content to just let people jump out and test the waters. Because the dangers are real as dangers might be in the open sea. The dangers in not just leaving God's church, but leaving, the safety of what God has set up for us. There can be dangers in that. But we seem okay with that. We just watch them float away further and further out of our reach, further and further out of our sight. Our young people leave, and we're like, well, every now and again, do you remember Sasha? Who's that? Oh, the big top. Yeah. And then you carry on with your life, as if Sasha isn't a son of here, as if he isn't somebody you saw grow up. Or what happened to Shaheem? Or the McDonald girls. We just almost we'll just keep plowing on. We're in the boat and we're in safety. If that were real, we wouldn't do that, would we? We'd go out and get them. If Antonio, Lara, Rashonda, who was in this boat, and Antonio fell out, you can bet I'll be out there swimming. I can't even swim that well, but I'll be trying to do something to get him back, wouldn't I? But we seem happy just to let them float off and hope that the current brings them back by some happy accident. Well, church, I'm going to tell you that they might float back, but you don't know that. Some of our youth have left here and will never come here again. Will never come here again. Now, I'm not saying that's your fault. Who knows why they left? But if you love them, you might want to do something. If you love them, you might want to do something, church. You might want to do something. And if they're in the boat, you might want to keep them there. If they're in the boat, you might want to keep them there. Because, there's danger out there. Now, sometimes we talk to young people and say, out there, there's nothing good. And that's not true. We know it's not true. There's some exciting things out there. They may be good, but they're not good for you necessarily. And ultimately, it doesn't end well. Ultimately, it doesn't end well. And if you go back to the story with the prodigal son, he went out and did his thing. In the King James Version, it says, riotous living. Now, that phrase always stuck with me. I'm not sure what riotous living is, but I imagine he was out there, living foul a little bit. He was, there was girls and there was alcohol, and I don't know if there was any drugs as we know, but he was doing his thing, and enjoying himself. And I'm sure he had loads of friends, and it was cool until it ended. And he found himself, living with pigs and eating with pigs. Now, I just want to give a little warning to some of our young people. This story, it's a good story, but I think the devil has developed since then. I think he's upped his game since then. In this story here, the devil brought him down so low, it was clear he had nowhere to go. You can't fall off the floor, and so look, I better, look up. But in our lives, sometimes, the devil's a little more slick. He's not going to bring you all the way down. He'll keep you where you think that you're in control, that I've got this. I can come back when I'm ready. I've heard that story so many times. People thought they had things under control. I work in a place where, boys between 15 and 18 who thought they had things under control might not see the light of day for the next 15 years. You think you got it all covered, but you haven't. Young people, you think you got it all covered. I'm telling you, you haven't. The devil is slicker than you. That's just a fact. Please believe that. The devil is smarter and slicker and cooler and more wily than you, and you can't compete with him by yourself. So don't think you've got this, because you haven't. You really haven't. But anyhow, this son, he was eating with the pigs, and he thought to himself, well, this ain't no good. There's got to be something better than this. Then he remembered home. And what was interesting about the story, he didn't remember home and say, well, I remember the love of my family. Nothing like that. He just thought, well, home, at least I might be able to get a job. I might be able to do some cleaning or do some gardening or something. My dad, I was wrong, but maybe he'll let me just do something around the house and give me a little change, and I can be a servant. And so again, don't think, young people, that if you'll leaving church or thinking about leaving church, it's not going to be perfect. It's just not a perfect place. And it seems clear from what the son was saying, or what he was thinking, that maybe home wasn't perfect. He didn't say anything about the love that he remembered at home. It was just, maybe I can, do something to improve my situation a little more than where I am now. And he made his way home. Now, again, the Bible doesn't say, but I bet he was embarrassed. I bet he was embarrassed. And I know for all people, particularly young people, shame is the biggest thing. Yeah? Pride is the biggest thing. Because I'm a grown man. I'm a grown man. And so, or I'm a grown woman. And so I can't just say, oh, my bad. That's the hardest thing sometimes, to humble ourselves. Eat some humble pie, as it were. It's a hard thing to do. But don't let pride keep you eating with pigs. Don't let pride keep you eating with pigs, living foul. And, we know the story after, and things worked out. But the son didn't know that things would work out. He just knew that he no longer wanted to be living with pigs. So therefore, he better do something. Get up and get going. So he left. He left where he was and he made his way home. And I imagine he was nervous. And you ever been in trouble and the trouble is coming and it's just a matter of time? Have you ever been there? Nobody? Oh, I have. And you guys, you've never been in trouble. I have. I remember when I was younger, back in the days of licks. I know people don't get licks anymore. But in my day, we used to get licks. And I remember in church, every now and again, I'd do something I shouldn't do. Not that bad. I was a good kid. I still was the one, but I was good. But every now and again, I'd do a little something, and I knew Mum gave me that look that as soon as you get home, it's licks. And then, I'd hope that she'd forget, and I might forget for a minute. But all throughout the day, it keeps popping back into my head. And you get closer to the house, and you open the door, and you run up to your bedroom and get changed, and just try to go to bed. But it's there, and you can't really relax. And yes, Mom didn't forget. But I imagine the son felt a bit like that all the way home. Oh, what's it going to be now when I get home? They're going to give me a hard time, and I'm just going to keep my mouth shut and just, humble myself. And so he returned home. And so church, young people, it might not be perfect. This church is not perfect. It has people like me in it. It's not going to be perfect, but it's your home. It is your home. And when things get rough, it will always be your home. Me and my mum, we don't have the great relationship all the time. But one thing I know is if the going got tough, I can go home. And she might moan at me for 2 hours, but I can go home. And young people, you can go home. So he arrives. I don't know how long it took him to get there, but he arrives. And he sees his father. And what does he do? He starts making his apology. He starts trying to put things right. Not to excuse himself, by the way, just to say, look, my bad. I've sinned in the sight of God and in your sight. And I could imagine the way it's written that he didn't get those words fully out of his mouth before what? Well, the father ran to him. Now, I don't know how old his father was or how old he was, but you don't see that adults run that often. He ran to him and hugged him and kissed him. He ran to him and hugged him and kissed him. And it didn't matter. It didn't matter. He started straight away, organizing, let's sort these clothes out. Let's get something decent on him. The best that we have. Let's organize a party, a welcome home party, because my son has come home. It wasn't, sometimes, if it was us in this story, me certainly might have been, well, where do you think you've been? Or where do you think you're going? Or, I told you so. I knew the money ran out. Make them squirm for a little bit, yes? No, that's who we are. That's who we are, because we were right and he was wrong. And now you come clapping hands to me. I've got at least 15 minutes or, a couple of days of letting you know that you were wrong. And we do that in church, don't we? We do that in church. We haven't seen somebody in 2 years, 3 years. And then we look at them like, oh, where you been? So you got a baby now. Oh, I can see what you've been doing. That's what we're like. That's what we're concerned with. Because yes, we're right and they're wrong. But in this story, to the father, Didn't matter. And why didn't it matter? Because he just loved his son. He loved his son, and his son had chosen to come home. He'd chosen to come home. So if anybody ever comes home to Chiswick Church, please, church, just restore them to where they were. Treat them well. But we say, no, we can't play the piano for another 6 months. Or, well, you can come in, but you sit at the back. You sit at the back and don't say a word. Is that what God wants? That's not your place. God will deal with all of that. God will deal with all of that. You just love them. It's not your place, church, to say who should and who shouldn't. I'm not saying we shouldn't have standards in church. Don't get me wrong. But you know what I'm saying, church. Let's just restore people and treat them with love. In the same way, when we sin, Jesus doesn't say, well, this is the 5th time now, Mark, you've done that. He just forgives me. Because why? Because he loves me. And so, things are restored. The son was back home. They're throwing the big party, and he's wearing, I don't know, Ralph Lauren, or I don't know, what do people wear? Bell Ralphie's all right. Okay, apparently Ralph is still relevant. And so, everything's good. If the story ended there, then wow, that would have been great, wouldn't it? If the story ended there. But it didn't. This is a young person's phrase now. Now, it's a good one. Haters. Older people ever heard that phrase? Haters. There was a hater in the house. There was somebody who wasn't too happy that his son was back. Now, I'm going to use Antonio as a little example here. He's looking at me and saying, Antonio, is my son, I love him. He's developing. He's getting there. But Antonio, not so much now, but he struggled at one stage in his life with a certain issue. And how it would be, if I gave him an ice cream, I give Antonio an ice cream, a Magnum, with the one with the double caramel was his favorite. He didn't want a Magnum, and he would have a Magnum. Now, Lara, if I got her a Magnum, she would say, what about Antonio? I remember I picked her from school one day, they gave me out school milk, and she wouldn't leave until they gave her another one for her brother. Oh. Antonio would come out with the one, I got some milk. And so, I'm trying to get to Antonio that if you got a Magnum, and if Laura has a Magnum, your Magnum doesn't get any smaller. It's still a Magnum, and it still tastes nice. And in church, there's room for all in God's church, for everybody. There's enough seats. You've got these lovely seats with, they still see some gaps, and the seats upstairs. There's enough for everybody. There's enough love for everybody. God's love doesn't run out, and nor should ours. It doesn't run out. There's enough posts for everybody. There's enough spots on the music rota, or on the praise team rota, or, there's enough spaces in the AY committee, whatever it is that you want. Give it to them. It doesn't diminish you, but we're saying, well, I'm the person ministries leader now, and so, well, you were it before, and no. That's just being a hater. That's all that is. That's all that is. Another thing, again, poor Antonio. We had something very recent. He's in secondary school now, so he's a bit out of my reach for some things. And, he says to me sometimes when he's got maths club, he doesn't have a chance to go. He buys some little breakfast things in school. You can get this regulated thing that they do. And so when he's got maths club, got to give him a quid, to get something to eat, some kind of breakfast. There's breakfast in the house, by the way, but, breakfast on the road tastes better, clearly. And so, as a good father, I say, Antonio, I'm trusting you now. I know you've got a little thing for sweets and that biscuit. And I say, look, if I give you this money, please buy something reasonable. Buy something healthy with it. Yeah, I'll go to Greg's and get this, whatever. Okay, all right. And every time not every day, every now and again, I see Josie watching me. Every now and again, I'll give him a quid or something, get a little something, And the other day, we couldn't find something anyway. So Josie was looking in his school blazer. And his school blazer, he's shaking his head. Yeah. His school blazer looked like a puffer jacket. Because in the lining was just wrappers, Twix, Kit Kat, Haribo. There was a half-eaten packet of Oreos in there. And, it was just like a puffer jacket, this thing. It was just full of wrappers. And so, of course, I said to him, Antonio, man, you let me down now. We spoke about this every time. And so he went to bed out. So next morning, he's still sulking, lips hanging out. And I said, what's wrong? He was saying, well, Dad, you don't trust me. I said, of course I don't trust you. You went and you didn't see that stuff you had in your jacket there? And he was saying, yes, yeah, and I know. Because will you ever trust me again? I said, of course I will. He said, when? And I said, well, when you prove to me that you can be trusted, of course. And he said to me, Dad, how can I prove to you that you can trust me if you don't give me any money? And so, what could I say? I was outsmarted by an 11-year-old. But he was right. I love him. And if I'm going to trust him, at some point, I've got to give him the money again. And trust and hope that he does better. Now, I could, make him say, well, you have to wait a month before you get another quid to get something at breakfast, but, if I try, I have to give him a chance. I have to give him that chance. And it's the same here, church, we write people off. And I'm not talking about when people have had, official sanctions. I'm just talking about somebody who just hasn't been here in a while and they got an earring in their ear now. They don't have an earring when you left, the earring now, or you got more makeup now than you used to have. And so, well, you got to, pay a penance, or you just wait out a certain period until we decide that it's okay for you to be involved. No, we got to trust them. We have to trust them. And let's be honest, they're our kids, and any little ways they may have, maybe they got them from us. They didn't come out of the moon, they're our kids. They're our youth, they're our young people. So maybe we need to trust them a little more. And so this elder brother was a hater. And he's saying, what's going on here? What do you call this? This character's been gone all this time, Dad. You've been moaning by him for the last however long. He comes back now, and what? He gets to all this wonderful stuff. He didn't throw a party for me. I didn't get Ralph Lauren. And he was upset and angry, a bit like Antonio with the Magnum. And Dad said, this has all been yours. You're my son, I love you. You've had me all of this time, and anything I have is yours. Don't begrudge your brother. Don't begrudge your brother. And church, God's love is yours. It always has been yours. If you've been somebody, even people talking out, there's one of the few guys I know that stayed in church the entire time, Well, I'm Viv, you and Tony Davidson and boys, great, but he didn't begrudge me coming back. He was pleased to see me when I came back. And we should be pleased to see our young people when they come back. Them coming back and being restored to where they should be and making things right with God and building a relationship with God, it doesn't diminish ours. It does not diminish ours. So, church, we have to get out of our own way. We have to get out of our own way. It's not our place to judge anybody. That's God's place. God put us here to love each other as he loved us. That is it. Doesn't make a difference if you're old or young. Doesn't make a difference if you've got silly hairstyle or whatever. God doesn't bother with any of those things. It's not our job. So, young people, this is your home. This is what God has given you. It may not be perfect, but I don't think God makes mistakes. I don't think he put you in this home with this family by mistake. So young people, no matter what anybody tells you, this is your home and you have a right to be here and be yourself here. And if anybody stands in your way, they're just a hater. They're just a hater. That's all that is. And church, they are our young people. They're our young people. We talk as if sometimes if they've, flown in from the moon. We had this thing near our home one time. These boys were playing this pounds game behind our house and smoking weed and all these big problems. And, we had a meeting with the community and they were saying, oh, it's terrible. But it's your son. And it's your son. And so let's also talk about our young people as if, they don't belong to us. They're not a product of our homes and of this home. And so wherever they are is what we made them to an extent. And so let's accept them and love them anyway. Accept them and love them anyway. Our young people, they know the theory of God. They understand who God is. They know the theory, And the Holy Spirit will do its work. The Holy Spirit will always do its work. However, church, it's your job to be a tangible expression of that love. It's your job to, like the Father, reach out and grab them and give them a hug and a kiss. That's what your job is. And it's through that love that if they're thinking about going home, they just might stay. And it's through that love that if they've left, might make them feel like coming home. Now, we'll invite Ronique to come and sing a song for us. And I want you to try and listen to the words of this song. I know Ronique's a great singer, a great performer, but try and listen to the words of this song.